Chase, boy, you just live down the street, down the highway in Cincinnati. So, but just put in perspective what last Saturday was for you.
Well, I told somebody the other day that I've used the word surreal before. I think that I've been misusing the word surreal though, because I didn't really have an understanding of what surreal was. It really was a surreal experience. When he left the starting gate, I think a lot of people that maybe didn't know the horse, didn't know Gustavo's program, thought we were out of the race. And I was just hoping and praying that Javi would stay patient, because I knew that he could come running. I didn't know that we were going to win. I'll be very clear on that. But I knew that we had a chance to win if Javi was patient. And then when he tipped him out and came down the stretch, it was, one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I mean, look, I've been so fortunate in this short racing career of ours to watch Country Grammar run second twice in the Saudi Cup, to be there with him winning the Dubai World Cup. So I've been very fortunate to have my fair share of, mountaintop racing experiences. Watching him cross the finish line, and probably more than anything, getting to share the winner's circle with 382, or a portion of our 382 members, was probably the best part of all. It's like, I've said to people, what's a great stage if it can't be shared with others?
Talk about mountaintop. So this was Mount Everest.
Yeah, it really was. And it's, I think it's hard to fathom until you've actually done it. When we won Dubai World Cup, people were excited. I was excited. I sobbed. Country Grammar is my heart horse. I love that. I love that animal. The recognition, the cultural recognition that in the place of import that the Kentucky Derby has is beyond that. I mean, it's one of the greatest sporting events in history, and to be able to do that in front of 150,000 people and feel the energy it's a once in a lifetime thing. I told somebody it's like catching lightning in a bottle, and I found out you've got a 1 in 15,000 chance of being struck by lightning and a 1 in 18,000 chance of winning the Derby. So I'm like, I guess we did something even. You're more likely to get struck, I guess.
People compare it to an out-of-body. They have won an out-of-body experience. Was it for you?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, again, when I say the word surreal, it's really hard to put into words. Most of it's a blur. I remember screaming and hitting my program. I was up in the Jockey Club suites, and then how we got down to the track and into the winner's circle is all basically a blur.
That's about how Commonwealth, how that came together. And you also have golfers. So how does that work? Like, do you just is it a sponsorship that you buy into? Like, I don't know how's that work with the humans?
It's a great question. So my co-founder and Commonwealth CEO, Brian Doxtator, reached out to me on Instagram in 2018. I had just claimed a Scat Daddy Distorted Humor mare up at Belterra. My good friend Clark Bestie, he said, hey, there's an interesting bred mare. Justify might win the Triple Crown. We should go snag her. My first racehorse. And we started to try and bring her back, and we were thinking about putting her on the turf. And Brian saw that we were doing that, and he said, hey, I've got a business idea. We should talk. And Brian had reverse engineered this business model that was being used in classic cars, micro shares in classic cars. And we thought, there's got to be something more interesting. And so that was the genesis of Commonwealth. He sent me a 500-page document on Instagram from the SEC. Only horses could make me read a 500-page document. I was the student that basically, I was good at taking tests, and I used those so that I didn't have to do homework. So read the documents, and I was like, I'm all in.
Did you all know each other before?
Yeah, Brian's 8 years older than I. He was very close friends with my older sister growing up. So when I was in 4th grade, they graduated high school, and I hadn't really seen him since. So Commonwealth brought us back together, and it's been a heck of a ride ever since. But with golfers, that question, golfers already were being syndicated a little bit like racehorses. So a young golfer would go to his dad's club or some of his buddies and ask for support. And so what those guys would do is they just do an income share agreement. And so what we do is we've got Joey Verzich and Cooper Dawsey on the app. And we have income share agreements for a certain number of years with them, with kind of varying percentages as the years go on. And it's a really awesome way because golf deals, Brian, I should say, is a scratch golfer. So I'm the horse guy, Brian's a golfer, an incredible golfer, and actually one of our problems has been in vetting these candidates. He's been beating a lot of them playing. And so I'm like, Brian, we got to keep you at Commonwealth. Like, we can't put you on the platform. So, thankfully, I'm not faster than any of the horses that we look at. So I've got to use a bit of a different tactic. But it's been really awesome. And what we believed when we started Commonwealth was we saw a great deal of crossover when we were looking at social media profiles of the young folks that were following us. So many of them had golf, and we thought it's been our hypothesis that one of the best ways that we can grow the sport is actually not through the sport, but in introducing horses through other sports. Like when we start getting people that come in because they're interested in golf or tennis or our other sports, and then they go, and by the way, we've seen this now that golfers are in the app, they go, wait, they understand golf, and they go, wait, I can do this with horses? They're like, okay, I got to check this out. So we're really excited for the opportunity. We think, a rising tide lifts all boats. Our average age is about 36. We've been very tech focused from the beginning. Brian and I worked in stealth for 2 years to build the tech. Like what you see right now from the app, we think is a beautiful user experience, but it's just the beginning. What we really try to do is build a solid foundation that we can then build off of. So there's a lot of changes and improvements that are going to come that a younger generation expects from technology. And then I would say the other thing is we're diversifying into other sports so that we can keep our quality bar very high. As opposed to just staying in horse racing, we wanted to be able to move across multiple sports rather than needing to offer, 100 racehorses, let's say. We keep it at 50 a year, and we can offer 30 golfers and 30 tennis players, so that anything that we offer, we've got great conviction that they can be the best. And one thing that we've done that I'm very proud of in terms of kind of supporting that narrative around the quality bars, we've purchased a number of horses that have never made it to the Commonwealth platform. We've completely eaten the costs. Whether it was SEC delays or whatnot, we had enough time. We would never buy a horse that we didn't have conviction in, of course. But you bring them home and you start training them a bit and you learn a little bit more. And we said, you know what? I think this horse is going to end up in claimers. We're not going to start that way. That's not how we're not going to put that on our user base. And of course, we will eventually, you will ultimately have horses that don't make it, and they're not a Mage or a Country Grammar, or even a We the People who's special in his own right. But we'll never offer a horse that we don't have full conviction in, and that we believe could compete at the highest levels. Well, it's funny enough, when we went to put the app on the App Store, Commonwealth didn't fit. But we also said, we have a long-term vision that we can build a secondary trading platform for Commonwealth, which we think is really powerful. Imagine that we open shares in Mage the day before the Derby, and imagine that we open trading the day after Derby. It's a really fun way that people can, just like you get to in racing, people sell a leg of a horse or 10% all the time. And so what better way for our folks to be able to stay on the journey, but also maybe take some money off the table. And we also think it's another way to get folks that are interested, but maybe interested in a different dynamic, involved.